Hello everyone, welcome back to the Balatro multiplayer patch notes. This is for version 0.2.11, and as normal we're going to go through each person that made contributions since the last update and what they did. We will start with myself, Phantom, a very small list for this update. The thing that I did is I fixed a desync between players for the Let's Go Gambling misfire chance. Basically what happened before is the regular, the positive hit, was in the same queue as the misfire hit, so and certain players would get like 4 misfires in the PvP and other players would get none. Now they're going to be separate chances, so if you've used it the same amount of times, you're going to get the same amount of hits on the misfire. So that'll be a very nice change. And here we have some changes by Brawl Mario. These are really cool. There's now a toggle between your own jokers and the enemy jokers on the game end screen. Previously you could only see the enemy's jokers, but now you can see your own as well. And there's also been a rework done to taxes. It now will give +4 mult for each card sold by the opponent. Previously it only worked on jokers sold, and I think it gave 5 mult. Something else to note is that it is now common instead of uncommon. And the mult will only increment at the start of PvP. It will keep track of everything that has been sold up until that point, at least during that ante, and then it will increment at that point once PvP starts. And here we have some changes by Toneblock. They also go by Senfinbrer on the multiplayer Discord, so if you've seen them, that's the same person. We got some really important changes and a good long list from them. We have Spectrals, Taros, and Planets will now have a separate queue between packs and all other areas. So for example, let's say Spectrals, the Sixth Sense, the shop on the Ghost deck, the Speedrun, and Seance will all have their own queue, and then Spectral packs, this includes any way to get a Spectral pack, so Spectral pack skip, packs in the shop, those will all have a different queue. This is to stop things like one player gets an Ankh up in their consumable slot and the other one will get it in the pack. Now you'll both see it in that pack or both see it in that consumable slot if you both use those same Spectral Generation jokers. Wraith and Rare Skip will now share a queue, so if one player does a Rare Skip and the other player does a Wraith later in the game, they'll both have that same Rare Joker as the first one in that queue. But again, if one player uses more Rare Skips or Wraiths, then they'll find Joker the other one may not be able to see. There's been a rework to Penny Pincher. It will now give 1/3 of the money spent by the opponent in the corresponding shop last ante. So let's say you are in ante 2 and you spend $30 in the small blind shop. Then after the small blind of ante 3, then you will get $10 from Penny Pincher. And that's to stop certain stalling elements that were present with Penny Pincher. And likewise, it cannot appear until ante 3. This is because in the first 2 antes there isn't a PvP to, line them up, so you can't. It would be optimal to stall, for example, in the small blind of ante 1 to simply not play the game until opponent hits PvP. If Penny Pincher could show up before that, so that's why it can't show up until ante 3. There's also been a fix to Speedrun, and now we'll give a Spectral card every time, including in the first PvP. And it was also blueprint compatible, so lining up with Seance, it is now able to give you 2 Spectral cards if you make it to that PvP first, if you have a blueprint. The SMods version will now display in the mods list in the lobby. Previously it was only shown on the user's side, now it will also show your opponent which version of SMods you are using. That's very relevant for situations like when certain versions of SMods have glitches with standard pack desyncs or edition desyncs or any of those issues, so now you can see you and your opponent are on the same SMods version. There has been changes to the Invisible Joker RNG. It's kind of hard to explain, but I guess I will try. The way it currently works is, let's say you have Joker 1 and Joker 2, and then Joker 3 is Invis Joker. If you sell Invis Joker, let's say it would hit number 1. If you just had 1 and 2 and you sell Invis Joker, and it would hit number 1. There were situations where if you introduce a 3rd Joker, then it might hit number 2 instead of number 1 because of the way ranges and certain things with the Invis Joker works. Now it will only update, the RNG will only be changed with the addition of an additional Joker to hit that new Joker. So instead of hitting 1, it could hit 3 or it could stay 1, but it won't ever change to 2 because of the introduction of a 3rd Joker. If that makes sense, hopefully it does. There's also been additional logging for better bug fixing. This just helps us to be able to know when certain bugs are occurring, if any are occurring at all, and So that'll be helpful for the developers. And a wonderful surprise here, we have page 2 of what ToneBlock or Senfinbrer has done for 0.2.11, literally my goat. One thing they did is there is a rework to the asteroid planet card. Now instead of firing off immediately, so the way it works currently is if you use an asteroid, it will cause the highest level hand from your opponent to be de-leveled immediately. Now instead it will keep a track of how many asteroids your opponent has used, and then an asteroid rain is what I call it, will happen at start of PvP, and so all of those asteroids will go off, your hands will be de-leveled all at once right before PvP. Again, this is to stop instances where it would make sense to, not use your planet cards or sit inside of a celestial pack until opponent hits PvP to be able to ensure your best hand doesn't get hit with those asteroids. Now that won't happen anymore. There's been a rework to the pizza Joker. Previously it gives +6 discards while you're holding it. Whenever an opponent enters a blind, it will decrement by 1, or if you enter a blind, it will decrement by 1. And it gives this to both players equally, and then if an opponent skips, then it will be eaten entirely. Now instead, on the completion of a blind while holding pizza, so if pizza is in your Joker slots, and you finish a blind, it will give the user +2 discards and the opponent +1 discard for the duration of the entire next ante. So if you're in ante 2, you finish a blind with pizza, for the entirety of ante 3 you will have 2 extra discards, but it will also give your opponent +1 discard. I think this will be especially relevant on your higher stakes where less discards are the default starting value. There is a better voucher queue. I'll try to explain this as well. Again, it's a little complicated. Basically, the way it currently works is, the way you can think about it is it picks a number 1 to 32, corresponding to all the Tier 1 and Tier 2 vouchers. And if, for whatever reason, that voucher is unavailable, like let's say it picks a Tier 2 of something you haven't picked a Tier 1, or if it's banned in multiplayer, or for any reason, or if you've already bought it, let's say, then it will go to the next one in the queue. So it'll pick I'll pick number 1, and then it will pick number 12, and then it will pick number 14, and then it will pick number 4. That's an example. So that means, let's say, player 1 picked up Magic Trick, and player 2 did not pick up Magic Trick. There is a world where the queue was, Magic Trick and then Overstock. So then the player picked up Magic Trick will get punished. Well, actually, they would get rewarded for picking up Magic Trick because now Magic Trick can't appear in that next ante's queue because it's already been bought, and the next one in the queue is Overstock. So the player picked up Magic Trick can get Overstock, and player 1 would see Magic Trick. Whereas likewise, there's also another world where the first one is, I think it's Incantation or something. Not Incantation, Illusion. Whatever the level 2 of Magic Trick is, I've never picked it up in my life, except for once to get it out of my collection. Whatever level 2 Magic Trick is, and then after that is Overstock. So then the player who didn't pick up Magic Trick would get Overstock, and the other player would get Illusion, or whatever it's called. So that just means, basically every time you pick up a voucher, it causes what we call voucher desync, where one player could pick up a certain voucher and it would cause different vouchers to appear throughout the rest of the game, seemingly in unrelated fashion. And now the way it works is it will pick a number 1 through 16, corresponding to all the Tier 1 vouchers. If the Tier 1 voucher is bought, then it will show the Tier 2 voucher. And then if the Tier 2 voucher is also bought, it will simply go to the next one in the game-wide queue of vouchers. So in that situation we had before, if player 1 picks up Magic Trick, then in the next drop, if Magic Trick was supposed to show up, then that player picked up Magic Trick would see the level 2 Magic Trick, and player 1 would see the level 1 Magic Trick. It wouldn't cause one player to see Overstock instead of the other. The only thing it could do is if someone picks up 2 full tiers of the voucher, the other one doesn't, then it will simply get them one farther in the queue of vouchers for the entire game. Again, a little complicated, hope that was understandable for each of you. The misprint tech has been removed. I skipped one, I'll come back to it. When playing multiplayer, and so likewise, because of that, every misprint viewer mod, such as Top Deck Preview and Phantoms Preview Plus, will be unapproved for ranked following this update. And the final thing that ToneBlock did is that editions will no longer desync with things like skip tags or Wraith or Riffraff. Anything that produces jokers that are outside of the normal shop queue will no longer desync those editions. So for example, if let's say the first iteration of the family is supposed to be negative in the shop, but you got it from a rare skip or a wraith, then you would get a normal non-editioned version of the family, whereas your opponent could get a natural -1 in the shop, and that's just, unfair. So now they are equal. So one player would get, they both be negative now. So if it's a rare skip and the first family is supposed to be negative, your family will be negative, etc. Here's a change made by Andy. There's additional logging for the opponent's rerolls and the vouchers at the end of the game. So basically, it will send a message to your opponent, or vice versa. Your opponent will send a message to you that will tell you, hey, here's how many rerolls that I did, potentially when you did the rerolls. I'm not sure about that one though, and which vouchers did they have at the end of the game. And hopefully, I'm hoping that Andy will also update the log parser, because they are the one who runs the Balatro MP website and also the log parser, where it will also show this information so we can all see it in a easy human readable fashion. Killed by Lava made a change that added some UI, some user interface in the game to check the lobby settings and the mode in game. So basically, previously you couldn't see what the lobby settings were or which game mode you're playing on once you're in the middle of the game. So if someone accidentally clicked vanilla or picked a showdown mode instead of attrition, then you couldn't be able to see that until something showed up to let you know that you were playing the wrong game mode. Now you can just click the button and you can see, hey, are we playing on a mode with a set seed? Are we playing on attrition? Are we playing on the ranked rule set instead of vanilla? You can just click the button, you can check it, and that's a really nice quality of life change by Lava. This is a very interesting change by Philpag. Basically, they added a button where on the game over screen of the multiplayer game, you can continue in single player. So if you really like your run, you're like, I really love what I'm running here, you can hit continue single player, and then that run will be continued in a single player. You can even go into endless with whatever you got in that multiplayer game. And here we have an interesting and useful change by Virtualized. Seeds that are sent from the server will no longer contain a 0 or an O. Basically, if previously the server could send seeds to your game that contained a 0, but you couldn't manually enter in the set seed with a 0 because the game always changes it to an O for easy readability. That's just how Balatro works for setting seeds. And it made it hard after the game if you thought, hey, how did my opponent do this? Let's check maybe if they were cheating. It made it hard to do that when it's sent with a 0, so now the seeds sent from the server just can't have a 0 or an O in them. So, nice change. The final changes in this update are compatibility with other mods. The BU mod, I think, is the Balatro University mod. I believe previously on the title screen, Dr. Spectred's face is there, supposed to appear instead of one of the aces, but in the multiplayer mod, it showed like an ace in front of his face, which is kind of funny but not intentional. And so Quaspin fixed that, and now it should just show Dr. Spectred's face instead of that with an ace as well. The Handy mod compatibility by Sleepy. They're the creator of the Handy mod. I believe this one is to allow the like speed up, which is banned in current ranked gameplay, to be used in single player when you have the multiplayer mod still installed. So you can speed up, not when you're playing multiplayer, but when you're playing single player, even if you have the multiplayer mod on your system. Too many jokers compatibility. I didn't look too much into that, but it's better and more compatible. Thank you to CG223 for that change. And so that was kind of a lot for this video today, but be sure to subscribe for more awesome Balatro multiplayer content, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.